everyone, ready for another deep dive? Today we're looking at AI and tech stocks, and to help us out, we have an interview with Dan Ives.
Yeah, Dan's a big-name tech analyst, and he's actually on the ground in South Korea right now talking with companies and investors.
Oh, wow, so we're getting a global perspective then.
Exactly. It's a really unique look at the AI world and where the smart money's going.
So what's Dan seeing over there?
Well, one of the first things that jumped out at me was his take on the NASDAQ. He thinks it's about to surge.
Surge? How much are we talking?
He's predicting a 20 to 25% jump, potentially, and he uses a pretty interesting analogy to explain it.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Lay it on me.
He says right now the NASDAQ is like 10 p.m. at a party that goes till 4 a.m.
So basically, the night is young.
Exactly. We're just getting started, and this growth, he says, is driven by all this investment in AI, by businesses and people buying more AI gadgets.
Okay, that's good news for anyone who's already in tech stocks or thinking about jumping in.
For sure. But he thinks there's one company that's going to be a major catalyst for this surge.
Oh, which one?
NVIDIA.
NVIDIA, they make the chips, right?
Yep. Their GPUs are crucial for AI applications, and Dan is super bullish on them.
Bullish how?
He thinks their upcoming earnings report is going to blow everyone away, show just how huge the demand is for their AI chips. He even said current estimates are probably off by 15 to 20%.
Wow, that's a lot. You know, I did read somewhere that the demand for NVIDIA chips is like 15 to 1, like 15 companies wanting every single chip.
Oh yeah, I saw that too. That really shows you the potential value of NVIDIA in the AI space. Makes you wonder if they're the stock to own if you want to ride this AI wave.
Yeah, it's a good point. But what about the US-China situation? All that tech rivalry, doesn't that complicate things?
Yeah, for sure. Dan actually described it as a high-stakes poker game with companies like Apple and TikTok as the poker chips.
High stakes indeed. So how does he see that playing out?
Well, he actually doesn't think it will derail the AI revolution. He says the bark is worse than the bite, and things will keep moving forward.
Really? Even with all the tension?
Yeah, he's pretty optimistic about the future of AI in both countries. He does say investors should watch out for any sudden moves or retaliatory stuff, though. Keep an eye on those negotiations.
Well, that's reassuring at least. But it is a tricky situation, isn't it? Especially with all these partnerships popping up, like Apple working with Baidu, the Chinese search engine, to bring AI to China.
Yeah, it's a real tangled web. You got these big companies trying to work together and compete at the same time.
Definitely a lot of moving parts. Now, something else that caught my eye was the news about DeepSeek, that Chinese AI company.
Oh yeah, the one that's supposedly built that really powerful AI model for way cheaper than the U.S. companies.
Yeah, that's the one. Shook things up a bit, didn't it?
It did, but Dan had a really surprising take on it.
Oh, what was that?
He actually thinks it's good news for NVIDIA.
Wait, really? How does that work? Wouldn't cheaper competition be a bad thing?
Well, he thinks that these cheaper models will make more companies want to invest in AI projects.
Because they can afford it now.
Exactly. And all those new AI projects will need more of NVIDIA's high-end GPUs.
So it's like a rising tide lifts all boats kind of thing.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. It's really fascinating how this is all unfolding. You know, how unexpected events create new opportunities.
Absolutely. It really makes you think about the bigger picture, the whole landscape of the AI market and how it's constantly changing. Speaking of big players, though, what about Tesla?
Tesla. Dan's a big believer in them, too.
I know. He's always been bullish on Tesla.
He sees their future in autonomous driving and robotics, thinks that alone could be worth $1 trillion for them.
Wow, $1 trillion. That's a lot of faith in self-driving cars and robots.
Yeah, but you know, Dan, he's not afraid to make bold predictions. And when you look at Tesla's history, their ability to innovate and disrupt industries, it's not totally out there.
They've certainly been shaking things up. But what about all the talk about Elon Musk's politics? He's been pretty vocal about his support for Donald Trump. That can't be good for Tesla, right?
It's definitely been a topic of conversation. But you know what? Dan thinks it might actually be a good thing for Tesla in the long run.
Really? How so?
Well, he thinks Musk is playing a strategic game here. He's using this relationship to influence regulations around self-driving cars, stuff like that.
So he's thinking long-term, trying to get ahead of the curve.
Exactly. And it raises an interesting question. Do you think Tesla is the most undervalued AI company right now?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, they're definitely pushing boundaries, no doubt about that. But it's a complex issue. There are arguments on both sides.
For sure. It's not a simple yes or no answer. You got to weigh all the factors.
Okay, so we've got NVIDIA, Tesla. What about Apple? What's Dan's take on them?
Oh, he's very bullish on Apple. He actually thinks they're on track to become the first $4 trillion company.
$4 trillion? Wow. What's driving that kind of growth?
He points to their huge iPhone user base, obviously, but also the rise of consumer AI. He thinks they're perfectly positioned to capitalize on that trend.
And their Apple Intelligence platform, all those AI-powered apps and services they're rolling out, that's going to be a big part of it too, right?
Absolutely. Dan calls Apple Intelligence their golden goose. He even predicts their services revenue alone could hit $175 to $200 billion.
That's a staggering number. Okay, so Apple is firing on all cylinders. What about Samsung? How do they fit into all of this?
You know, Dan wasn't as impressed with them. He actually called them out for not being innovative enough.
Really? What did he say?
He basically said they need to stop talking the talk and start walking the walk.
Ouch. That's pretty direct. He thinks they're being too cautious.
Yeah, he said they need to take more risks, be bolder if they want to stay in the game. You know, he even said something like,
You can't be in the right lane in a minivan when everyone else is speeding past you in a Bugatti.
that's the one. He feels like they're miming the boat a bit.
It makes you wonder, is this a Samsung problem or is it something bigger? Is the whole Korean tech industry lagging behind?
It's a good question, isn't it? We always think of South Korea as a tech leader, but maybe things are shifting.
Maybe so. Okay, before we move on to Dan's advice for investors, let's take a quick pause and recap what we've covered so far. We've got NVIDIA poised for a big surge, Tesla betting big on autonomous driving, Apple on track to become a $4 trillion giant.
Right, and Samsung needing to step up their game. And let's not forget DeepSeek, the Chinese company shaking things up with their cheaper AI models. It's a really dynamic landscape out there.
It sure is. All right, let's dive into Dan's advice for investors. What does he think people should be doing right now?
Well, his main message is pretty simple. Tune out the noise, do your research, and look for buying opportunities when fear takes hold.
That sounds like solid advice, especially in a market as volatile as tech. And I think he also said something about the tech bull market still having a lot of room to run.
Yes, he believes we're less than halfway through this particular bull market, which means there's still plenty of potential for growth and profit.
That's encouraging to hear. But, it's always important to remember that investing involves risk. It's about finding the right balance between potential rewards and potential downsides.
Oh, absolutely. And that's where doing your research becomes so important. It's not just about chasing the latest trends. It's about really understanding the technology, the companies, and the long-term potential of the market.
Right. It's about making informed decisions, not just emotional ones.
Exactly.
It's not about trying to time the market perfectly, but making informed decisions based on good research and a long-term outlook.
Exactly. And, Dan had some thoughts on Samsung. Remember how he was saying they're missing out by being too afraid to take risks?
Right, like when he said you can't be in the right lane in a minivan when everyone else is speeding past you in a Bugatti.
Yeah, that was a good one. He really thinks they need to be bolder if they want to stay competitive.
Makes you think, is this a Samsung thing, or is it like a whole Korean tech industry thing? Are they falling behind?
It's interesting to think about, isn't it? Because South Korea has always been such a big player in tech.
Yeah, let's get back to Dan's advice for investors, though. He seemed to really stress the importance of not letting fear control your decisions, especially when the market gets crazy.
Oh, absolutely. He's seen it happen so many times. People panic. When the market dips, they sell everything and then miss out when it rebounds.
It's like they let their emotions take over instead of thinking logically.
Exactly. And in a market like tech where things change so fast, that kind of fear-based approach can really hurt you.
So how do we avoid that trap? How do we stay calm and rational when things get bumpy?
Well, Dan's advice is to always go back to the fundamentals. Look at the technology, look at the company's potential for growth, think long-term.
Don't get caught up in the day-to-day ups and downs.
That's right, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
And in the tech marathon, the people who stay focused, stay informed, and stay calm, those are the ones who win in the end.
Absolutely. It's about having the courage to stick with your plan, even when things get a little scary.
And recognizing that volatility is normal, especially in tech, it doesn't necessarily mean things are going bad. It just means the market's adjusting.
Right, and sometimes those dips create opportunities, to buy stocks at a lower price if you've done your research and you believe in the company.
Like with that Chinese company DeepSeek, the one with the cheaper AI model.
Oh yeah, that caused a bit of a stir.
Some people saw that as a threat to NVIDIA.
But Dan saw it differently, didn't he?
He did. He thought it was a chance to buy more NVIDIA stock because he believed DeepSeek would actually help grow the whole AI market.
It's a good example of how thinking differently, challenging the conventional wisdom can really pay off.
You got to be willing to see the opportunity where other people just see danger.
Exactly. But always do your homework. Make sure your decisions are based on solid information.
Okay, let's talk about Apple for a second. Dan seems pretty convinced that they're going to become the world's first $4 trillion company.
Yeah, it's a big prediction, but when you look at how many people use their products and how much their services business is growing, it's not impossible.
They've really built an impressive ecosystem. And with Apple Intelligence, they're definitely in a good spot to take advantage of the whole consumer AI boom.
It's like they have everything they need to be the leader in this next wave of technology.
What about Tesla? Dan's putting a lot of faith in their self-driving cars and robots. He even said that sector could be worth $1 trillion for them.
It's a huge number, but again, Tesla has a history of doing things that nobody thought was possible.
Like revolutionizing the electric car market.
Exactly. So why not self-driving cars and robots, too? Plus, they're branding out into other areas as well, like energy storage and solar power.
It's like they have this vision of the future where technology is woven into every aspect of our lives.
And Dan clearly sees them as a key player in making that vision a reality.
But let's be real, Tesla also comes with a lot of baggage.
True, Elon Musk is a controversial figure, to say the least.
He's outspoken, he does things his own way, he's definitely ruffled some feathers.
But you can't deny that he's a visionary leader. He's not afraid to push boundaries.
And sometimes pushing boundaries leads to amazing breakthroughs.
Absolutely. The people who don't follow the rules, those are often the ones who change the world.
Okay, before we wrap up, I want to touch on Dan's final point about not missing out on the AI revolution.
He's really passionate about that.
It's not just about making money, it's about being a part of something truly historic.
This is a massive shift that's going to transform everything, and we have the chance to be a part of it.
We're on the cusp of something amazing, something that could solve some of the world's biggest problems and create a better future for everyone.
And as investors, we can be a part of that, but we need to be smart about it.
Meaning?
Well, we have to remember that AI has a dark side, too. It's a powerful technology that can be used for good or for evil.
It's a sobering thought, for sure.
It is. We need to be aware of the potential downsides as we invest in and develop this technology.
So how do we make sure AI is used ethically and responsibly? Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? How do we make sure this powerful technology is used for good?
It's a tough one, but I think it starts with just talking about it. Having open and honest conversations about the potential risks and benefits of AI.
Not just amongst tech people, but everyone.
Exactly. Everyone needs to be involved. Ethicists, social scientists, policymakers, everyday people. We all need to be part of this conversation.
Because it's going to affect all of us.
Yeah, the future of AI is the future of humanity.
It's like we're at this crossroads, and the decisions we make now are going to determine what that future looks like.
It really is. And the consequences are huge. Not just for the tech industry, but for society as a whole.
It's a lot of responsibility.
It is, but it's also an amazing opportunity.
To shape the future in a positive way.
Exactly. We can use AI to solve problems, to create a better world, a more just world.
So it's not just about the technology itself, it's about the values we put into it.
Yeah, and the choices we make about how we use it, and those choices need to be guided by ethics, by a deep understanding of the risks, and by a commitment to using AI for good.
It sounds like we need to be having these conversations right now.
The sooner the better. The longer we wait, the harder it will be to steer AI in the right direction.
Like building a house on a shaky foundation.
Exactly. You need a solid base if you want the structure to stand.
Okay, let's circle back to Dan's advice for investors for a minute. He really stressed the importance of not letting fear drive your decisions.
He's seen so many people make bad choices because they panicked when the market dipped.
They sell at a loss and then miss out when things go back up.
It's all emotional. It's not logical.
So how do you stay calm and rational when the market is going crazy?
Dan says focus on the fundamentals, look at the technology, assess the company's growth potential, think long-term.
Don't get caught up in the short-term noise.
Right. Remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
And in the tech marathon, the people who stay calm and focused, those are the ones who win.
Exactly. They have the courage to trust their gut even when everyone else is freaking out.
And they recognize that volatility is part of the game, especially in tech.
And sometimes those dips are actually opportunities to buy at a lower price.
Like when DeepSeek came out with their cheaper AI model?
Yeah, a lot of people saw that as a threat to NVIDIA.
But Dan saw it as a buying opportunity.
Because he understood the bigger picture. He knew that DeepSeek was actually going to help expand the AI market.
That's what he meant by thinking differently, seeing the opportunity where other people only see risk.
It's a valuable skill to have in the tech world.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, let's remember Dan's advice: tune out the noise, do your research, and don't let fear cloud your judgment.
Those are good rules to live by.
It's about making smart, informed decisions that are in line with your goals.
But it's also about understanding the power of AI and how it's going to change the world.
It's about being a part of something truly transformative, something that could make a real difference in people's lives.
And that's exciting, no matter who you are or what you do.
Like Dan said, this is just the beginning. The party's just getting started.
It's a great time to be alive and a great time to be involved in technology.
Whether you're an investor, an entrepreneur, or just someone who's curious about the future.
But we have to remember that with great power comes great responsibility.
The decisions we make about AI today will have a huge impact on the world tomorrow.
So let's be thoughtful, let's be ethical, and let's use this technology to create a better future for everyone.
Well said. I think that's a perfect note to end on. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into AI and the future of tech.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll see you next time.